Have you ever felt like giving up? Like the weight of life is pressing down on you so hard that you can barely breathe? You try, you fight, you pray, but nothing seems to change. The struggles keep coming, the setbacks feel endless, and deep inside, you wonder, is it even worth it? You're not alone. We all face moments where quitting feels easier than continuing. But let me tell you something powerful, there's a reason the enemy wants you to quit. He sees your potential. He knows that if you keep going, if you keep trusting, something incredible is on the other side of your battle. And that's exactly why he whispers lies of doubt, fear, and discouragement. But listen closely, because there's another voice. God's voice. And he's not saying, give up. He's saying, keep moving forward. He's reminding you that he is with you in the storm. That every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered, he has heard. That your struggles are not the end of your story, he is still writing it. So, what will you choose? The lies that tell you to quit? Or the truth that calls you forward? Because when God says, I have plans for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, Jeremiah 29 verse 11, he means it. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Your victory is already written. So stand up. Take one more step. Because God is not done with you yet. The battle of voices. Have you ever felt an internal battle raging within you? One voice tells you that you're not good enough, that you'll never make it, that your past defines you, and your future is hopeless. Another voice, quiet but unwavering, tells you to keep going, that you are loved, that you have a purpose. This is not just your imagination. It's a real spiritual battle, one between the voice of doubt and the voice of God. The enemy's whisper, lies meant to destroy you. The enemy is subtle. He doesn't always attack with grand, obvious deceptions. Instead, he whispers lies so quietly that they feel like your own thoughts. You're not good enough. You'll never succeed. Why even try? Sound familiar? The enemy wants you to believe these words because doubt paralyzes action. If he can convince you to stop trying, to stop believing, he's already won half the battle. Think about Eve in the Garden of Eden, Genesis 3. The serpent didn't force her to sin, he simply planted a seed of doubt. Did God really say? Genesis 3 verse 1. That one question was enough to lead her away from truth. Satan used the same tactic with Jesus. In the wilderness, after 40 days of fasting, he tempted Jesus by saying, "If you are the Son of God," Matthew 4 verse 3. He was trying to make Jesus doubt his identity. If he tried this on Jesus, don't you think he'll try it on you? The enemy knows that doubt is one of the most powerful weapons against faith. If he can make you doubt God's promises, he can make you live below your God-given potential. The voice of God, the truth that sets you free. Now, let's talk about the other voice. The one that speaks with power, with love, with unwavering certainty. I am with you. I have plans for you. Don't be afraid, I am making a way where there seems to be none. This is the voice of God. And unlike the enemy, he does not whisper lies, he declares truth. Think about Joshua, standing at the edge of the promised land, looking at giants in the land of Canaan. Doubt could have overtaken him, but God spoke, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." Joshua 1 verse 9. Or consider Moses, a man who doubted his own abilities. When God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt, Moses' first response was doubt. "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" Exodus 3 verse 11. But God's response? "I will be with you." Exodus 3 verse 12. Do you see the pattern? Every time someone in the Bible doubted themselves, God didn't respond by listing their qualifications. He simply reminded them, "I am with you." And that truth is still for you today. Real-life battles, a story of overcoming doubt. Let me tell you a story about a man named David. Not the mighty King David we remember, but the young shepherd boy who stood before a giant. Imagine being David. You're young, inexperienced, and standing in front of Goliath, a warrior over 9 feet tall. The voices of doubt were everywhere. His own brother, Eliab, mocked him, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are." 1 Samuel 17 verse 28. King Saul doubted him, "You are not able to go against this Philistine and fight him, you are only a young man." 1 Samuel 17 verse 33. Even Goliath taunted him, "Am I a dog, that you come at me with sticks?" 1 Samuel 17 verse 43. Imagine how easy it would have been for David to believe those voices. But instead, he listened to a different voice, the voice of God. "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." 1 Samuel 17 verse 37. David didn't let doubt stop him. He stepped forward, armed not with a sword, but with faith. And in one moment, the giant fell. Now, let me ask you, what giants are in your life right now? What doubts are standing in your way? If God could empower a young shepherd boy to defeat a warrior, what can he do for you? When the path seems impossible, God makes a way. Sometimes, the voice of doubt grows loudest when you're standing at an impossible situation. Think of the Israelites at the Red Sea. They had just escaped Egypt, but now they were trapped, Pharaoh's army behind them, a vast sea in front. Fear and doubt filled their hearts. Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? Exodus 14 verse 11. The enemy wanted them to see only the impossible. But then, God spoke. "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today." Exodus 14 verse 13. Then, the sea parted. What looked like the end was actually the beginning of their greatest testimony. And maybe today, you feel like you're standing at a Red Sea moment, trapped, hopeless, doubting. But God is saying, "I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." Isaiah 43 verse 19. What will you choose? Doubt or faith? Right now, 2 voices are speaking over your life. The enemy says, "You're not good enough. You'll never succeed. Why even try?" But God says, "I am with you. I have plans for you. Do not be afraid, I am making a way." So, what will you choose to listen to? Will you let doubt steal your destiny? Or will you silence the lies and step into God's promises? The choice is yours. But remember, God has never failed, and He won't start now. So stand up. Keep moving forward. Because God's voice is the only one that truly matters. If this message spoke to you, drop a "yes" in the comments. Share this with someone who needs to silence the voice of doubt today. Read Isaiah 41 verse 10 every morning to remind yourself of God's truth. Which voice will you choose? Let's talk in the comments below. Thank you for your sharing. Let's continue. Let me tell you a story of resilience, Emma's journey of faith. Emma had always been a fighter. From the time she was a little girl, she had big dreams, dreams of making a difference, of creating a life filled with purpose and meaning. She wasn't afraid of hard work. She wasn't afraid of sacrifice. But as she grew older, she realized something heartbreaking: dreams don't always come easy. One rainy evening, Emma sat alone in her tiny, dimly lit apartment. The sound of raindrops tapping against the window matched the steady pounding of her heart. In front of her, a pile of unopened envelopes sat on the table. She reached for one with trembling hands, slowly peeling it open. Final notice. Her chest tightened. The weight of reality pressed down on her like a crushing wave. She had been trying, working late shifts, sending out countless job applications, praying fervently for a breakthrough. But nothing seemed to change. Every door remained shut. Her thoughts spiraled. Maybe I'm not meant for this. Maybe I should just stop trying. As if on cue, the enemy's voice slithered into her mind, "You'll never make it. You're wasting your time. Just quit." The words felt so real, so final. She lowered her head into her hands, exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually. She had nothing left. But then, in the stillness of that moment, another voice emerged. Softer, yet stronger. "Keep going." It wasn't loud. It wasn't forceful. But it carried a weight of truth that the enemy's lies never could. She lifted her head. A flicker of hope remained. Emma didn't know it then, but her story was far from over. In fact, her greatest breakthrough was just around the corner. Emma's life had been a relentless storm of struggle, but one unexpected phone call felt like a ray of sunshine breaking through the clouds. "Hi, Emma. This is Sarah from Crestview Enterprises. We came across your application from a few months ago, and we'd love to invite you for an interview." For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Was this it? Was this the breakthrough she had been waiting for? Her heart pounded with hope. After months of closed doors and endless prayers, maybe, just maybe, this was the moment where everything would change. She immediately began preparing, poring over the company's mission, practicing interview answers, and praying for strength. She was ready. On the morning of the interview, she took one last look in the mirror. Her best blazer, her confident stance, her quiet faith. She walked into the company's office with determination in her step and expectation in her heart. The interview went smoothly. She connected well with the team, answered every question with clarity, and even saw nods of approval from the hiring manager. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. Valued. Capable. When she walked out of the office, she smiled for the first time in weeks. She could almost hear the words she had been longing for, "You got the job." But when the phone rang a few days later, the words were different. Cold. Final. "We're sorry, Emma, but we've chosen another candidate." The air was knocked from her lungs. She sat motionless, her fingers gripping the edge of the table, her mind racing. Another rejection. Another dead end. The enemy's voice returned, more vicious than before. "See? You're not good enough. You really thought this was going to work out? It's over, Emma. Just give up." Tears welled in her eyes. Every ounce of hope she had built up came crashing down. But deep inside, a quiet whisper pushed back against the darkness. Not yet. She didn't know how. She didn't know when, but something inside her refused to quit. And that decision, to keep believing, would change everything. Days turned into weeks, and Emma's situation only worsened. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her like an unbearable burden. Every bill felt heavier than the last, every unopened envelope a reminder of how close she was to losing everything. Her savings had dwindled to almost nothing. She had exhausted every job lead. Every rejection email stung like salt in an open wound. And the worst part? She was running out of hope. One evening, unable to bear the suffocating walls of her apartment, she stepped outside. The cool night air wrapped around her, and she walked aimlessly, her thoughts racing. "God, where are you?" she thought. "I've done everything I can. Why won't you help me?" As she walked, she passed by a small church. The doors were open, and a warm glow spilled onto the empty sidewalk. Without thinking, she stepped inside. The sanctuary was dimly lit, the flickering candles casting soft shadows on the walls. A faint hymn played in the background, the kind that spoke of peace, of trust, of surrender. Emma slowly made her way to an empty pew and sat down, her body weary, her soul exhausted. For the first time in weeks, she let her walls crumble. She whispered a desperate prayer, barely audible, "God, if you're really there, if you have a plan for me. I need you to show me. I can't do this alone." Silence. She waited, hoping for a sign, a voice, anything to confirm that God had heard her. But the heavens didn't part. No sudden miracle happened. And yet, something inside her shifted. A flicker of peace, small, yet undeniable. A quiet reassurance that even in the silence, she was not alone. Emma exhaled deeply. She had no answers. No clear direction. But she had something she hadn't felt in a long time, the strength to keep trusting. That night, she left the church the same way she had come in, but with one crucial difference. She wasn't giving up. Not yet. Because somehow, someway, God was still writing her story. One morning, Emma woke up with a new resolve. She had spent too many nights drowning in doubt, waiting for opportunities that never came. If the doors weren't opening, she would build her own. She took a deep breath, sat at her small desk, and opened her laptop. What can I do? What do I love? A thought surfaced, writing. For as long as she could remember, Emma had found comfort in words. They had been her refuge, her way of making sense of the world. But she had never considered writing as a career. Until now. She decided to take a leap of faith. No experience. No connections. Nothing but a belief that if God had placed this passion in her heart, He would make a way. She spent hours researching, learning, and building a small portfolio. Then, she took a deep breath and started reaching out to potential clients. Email after email, application after application. And then, silence. Days passed. Then weeks. No responses. No interest. Doubt knocked on the door of her heart. This is foolish. You're wasting your time. The enemy's voice tried to creep back in, whispering the same lies she had heard before, just quit. You're not good enough. But this time, she fought back. God, I trust you. She whispered those words every morning. She spoke them out loud as she sent each new application. And then, one morning, her inbox dinged. Emma, we love your writing samples. Are you available for a paid project? She blinked. Read it again. Her heart pounded with excitement. It wasn't a big job, just a few articles, but it was a start. Emma poured her heart into every word she wrote, praying over each piece before sending it off. The client was impressed. They recommended her to someone else. Then another. More projects followed. For the first time in months, hope felt real again. Emma realized something powerful. Sometimes, the breakthrough doesn't come in a single moment, but in small, steady steps of faith. And she was just getting started. Just when it seemed like Emma was finally climbing out of the darkness, life struck another devastating blow. One of her biggest clients, the one who had provided stability, the one she had counted on, suddenly pulled out. Half of her expected income vanished overnight. It felt like a cruel joke. Hadn't she trusted God? Hadn't she stepped out in faith? She had worked tirelessly, prayed relentlessly, and dared to believe that she was finally moving in the right direction. And now, it was all unraveling again. The old doubts came rushing back, louder than ever. Maybe I was wrong to trust. Maybe I should have just quit when things were hard the first time. Maybe I was foolish to think this would work. She sat in silence, staring blankly at the walls of her tiny apartment, the weight of discouragement pressing down on her like an anchor. The fight had drained her. For the first time in weeks, she felt the temptation to give up. And then, her phone vibrated. She hesitated before picking it up. It was a message from a friend. I don't know why, but I felt led to share this verse with you today. Isaiah 41 verse 10, Do not fear, for I am with you, do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. Emma read the words once. Twice. Tears welled in her eyes. This was no coincidence. God had not abandoned her. In that moment, she realized something profound. Faith doesn't mean the road will be easy. It means trusting even when the road takes an unexpected turn. She closed her eyes, exhaled deeply, and whispered, "Okay, God. I'll keep trusting." Because somehow, she knew this wasn't the end of her story. The very next morning, as the sun rose on yet another uncertain day, Emma's phone buzzed with a new email. She barely had the energy to check it, assuming it was just another rejection or bill reminder. But as her eyes scanned the screen, her breath caught in her throat. The email was from a company she had applied to over a year ago, one she had completely forgotten about. "Emma, we kept your resume on file and were impressed with your qualifications. A full-time remote writing position has opened up, and we'd love to offer it to you. The salary is..." She reread the number. Then again. It was more than she had ever imagined. More than she had dared to ask for. Her hands trembled as she held the phone. Could this really be happening? This job wasn't just an opportunity, it was stability, flexibility, and a chance to do what she loved. It was everything she had prayed for. And yet, it had arrived in a way she never expected. In that moment, the truth became crystal clear: God had been working behind the scenes all along. Every rejection, every delay, every moment of uncertainty, it had all been leading to this. Had she given up just weeks ago, she would have never seen this moment. Had she allowed doubt to win, she would have walked away right before the breakthrough. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized something so profound it sent shivers down her spine. Faith isn't about seeing the way, it's about trusting the one who makes the way. God hadn't abandoned her. He had been preparing something greater than she had even prayed for. Emma wiped her tears, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you, God." Because now, she knew, He was always working, even when she couldn't see it. Emma took a deep breath as she signed the contract. It was more than just a job offer. It was a testimony. A reminder that God had been working in her life, even in the moments she felt forgotten. She started her new role, not just with excitement, but with a deeper faith than ever before. Each keystroke, each assignment, each paycheck felt like a gift straight from God. Not because it had come easily, but because it had come through trust, perseverance, and divine timing. Looking back, Emma saw her struggles differently. Every rejection. It wasn't failure, it was redirection. Every setback. It wasn't a delay, it was preparation. Every moment of doubt. It wasn't proof that God was absent, it was proof that He was strengthening her faith. She realized something powerful: the struggle isn't a sign that God has abandoned you, it's proof that He's building you. Her journey had been filled with moments where she nearly gave up, but now, she knew, those moments were shaping her. Teaching her. Preparing her. And now, she shares her testimony with others. She tells them about the nights she cried, the days she doubted, the times she felt completely lost. And then she tells them about the moment she saw God's faithfulness unfold before her eyes. The enemy wanted me to quit. He told me I wasn't good enough. But God, He was always leading me forward. I just had to trust Him. And now, I'm telling you, don't give up. Because just like Emma, God is leading you too. Even if you don't see it. Even if you don't feel it. Even if everything seems impossible right now. Hold on. Keep trusting. Keep moving forward. Because your breakthrough, it's coming. What about you? Your story isn't over. Right now, you might feel like Emma did, exhausted, discouraged, questioning whether things will ever change. Maybe you've knocked on doors that never opened. Maybe you've prayed for breakthroughs that haven't come yet. Maybe you're battling the voice of doubt, whispering that it's time to give up. But hear this. Your story isn't over. God is still writing it. You may not see the way forward, but He does. You may feel stuck, but He is moving behind the scenes. What seems like a dead end is often just a divine detour. If God called you to it, He will lead you through it. Emma's story is proof that God is faithful, not just to her, but to you as well. What if your breakthrough is closer than you think? What if your struggle is actually shaping you for something greater? What if your testimony is in the making right now? So don't stop. Don't quit. Stand firm. Keep believing. Because your breakthrough, it might be just around the corner. Now, it's your turn. If Emma's story inspired you, comment, "I choose faith," below. Read Jeremiah 29 verse 11 and remind yourself, God's plans are always for your good. And most importantly, what's your story of resilience? Your story, your struggles, your faith, your perseverance, could be the very thing that inspires someone else to keep going. Here's how you can take action right now. Like and subscribe to Spiritual Journals for more faith-filled encouragement. Share this message with someone who needs a reminder that God is still in control. Your story isn't over. Keep moving forward. And when God shows up, and He will, your testimony will inspire others to keep going too. Let's talk in the comments. Because your testimony, it just might change someone's life. God bless you.